Today I got the opportunity to see the highly anticipated movie Wicked Part 1. Going into the movie, I hadn't seen the musical before, but I am quite familiar with the music because I've heard it quite a bit. I felt like the overarching theme of the whole movie was about what it's like to be different and to stand out among other people and how that affects your life. There are two main characters that I really want to talk about in this video. One is Nessarose, who is the wheelchair user in the movie. And then we also have Elphaba, who is one of the main characters, who is born green. Now, I want to be clear before moving forward in this video, I am not a wheelchair user. I don't know what that disability is like. I have a visual impairment, and so I'll be sharing my perspective as someone who's disabled, but I don't fully understand Nessarose's disability, but there are things that I can relate to, and I can also relate closely to Elphaba, who visually looks different to people and who get treated differently because of that. Now let's first talk about the character Nessarose. She is the one that is in a wheelchair in the movie. I was super excited to find out that Nessarose was played by an actual person who is disabled and is a wheelchair user. The actor is Marissa Bode, and this is actually the first time ever in the history of the play or the movie that the actual character of Nessarose is played by someone who is a wheelchair user, which is a huge deal because not very many people who are disabled are ever casted in movies, and in fact a lot of time they're played by people who are able-bodied people, which means they don't really know what it's like to experience that disability that they're acting as. And there's plenty of people who have the disabilities who could be more authentic playing that role. And I saw in an interview with Marissa Bode that she got the opportunity to work with the writers to make sure that the story was more authentic and to be able to make it less ableist than the play. So that was cool to hear. And so I think that is awesome and is a huge step in the right direction. Do I necessarily think it's perfect? Well, no, but it's definitely progress. Things that stood out to me for Nessarose's character is it shows her when she's leaving off to college with Elphaba and her dad is sending her off, and he tells her specifically, like, make sure you keep an eye out on her, like she's fragile and she needs to be taken care of, implying that she can't take care of herself is how I interpreted it. And so this is like a normal feeling that I feel like a lot of people have who have disabilities, where people hover and assume that you need help and that you're not capable of doing things on your own. In that same scene, a woman goes up to her and starts to help her without asking for help. She touches her wheelchair and starts pushing her away, and that's a huge no-no. You don't want to just assume that someone needs help just because they have a wheelchair or if they're blind or whatever. There's a good chance that they won't need your help, and so just assuming they need help is not great. Some cool moments that happen in that same scene, Elphaba stands up for her sister and lets people know that she doesn't need help and let her try on her own before you help her. And Elphaba gets upset and her powers start doing things and throwing things all around, and Nessarose is in her wheelchair and she flies up in the sky away from the lady trying to help her. And I think it's so cool that Marissa Bode did the actual stunt there instead of having someone else do it, implying that she wasn't capable of doing that stunt. And so that was really impactful to me. Also, later on in the movie, it was really fun to see that she did this fun little dance in the dancing part of the movie where she was actually dancing and moving around. And that just shows to you that just because you can't stand doesn't mean that you can't dance. So I really love that they put that in there where they had her actually doing a dance. There are definitely moments in the movie where people are pitying her and treating her different and saying rude things to her because of her disability. And the one that stood out the most was when Glenda, the other main character, pushes one of the munchkins to ask Nessarose to go to the dance with him because she doesn't want to go to the dance with him. So she's kind of pushing him on her, and she calls her tragically beautiful, which she plays off of this idea that, oh, she really needs someone. Like, look at how pathetic she is. Wouldn't it be great if you could help her out and just invite her to the dance and she'll be so happy? I'm sure you can all think of a time when you were pitied and how it didn't feel great. And this happens a lot to people with disabilities. And so this was kind of painful to watch that it was just like he was listening to what Glinda said because he really likes Glinda. There's even a part where Nessarose is talking to the Munchkin and she points out that he's only being nice to her because of her wheelchair and because of her disability. Nessarose wasn't a super big character in the first part of the movie, and so when part 2 comes out in a year, I'll be interested to see how her story develops over time, as it seems like they were just setting her up in the first part. So as I mentioned, the character Nessarose was played by Marissa Bode, who is a wheelchair user herself, and she came out with a TikTok in the last couple of days where she addresses some issues that have come out about her character and her playing Nessarose. A couple of days ago, Marissa came out with a TikTok where she addressed the issues that have come from the movie and talking about like crazy things where people are commenting about Nessa's character. And I'll link the TikTok for you to watch yourself. But it just was crazy to me that there were so many mean comments coming about the character. And while Nessa is a fictional character, she addresses that disability is not fictional and that there are people just like her who have disabilities who get things said to them that aren't great. Like someone wants to go push them out of their wheelchair, or that they're vegetables, and things like that that are just derogatory and not things that you should be thinking or saying about people who are disabled, and saying things like they want her to die or that she deserves to have her disability, which is totally unacceptable to say about anyone. I would definitely suggest that you go watch that TikTok because I thought it was super impactful. Now let's talk a little bit about Elphaba. So throughout the whole movie, it's obvious from the second she's born in the movie that she was born with green skin and she stood out and was different. There's a scene at the very beginning where it shows young children mocking and making fun of her. And this was truly hard for me to watch because I could totally relate to it and understand what it's like for people to treat you differently because of how you look. Just a friendly reminder, let's make sure that we're teaching our children about disability and explaining things to them so that when they do see someone who has a disability, it's not like totally a shocker to them and they're confused and don't understand what a disability is. That would really help with people making fun of people with disabilities if we just tried to help each other understand it better. And then the movie cuts to Elphaba going to college with her sister Nessa just to make sure that she is okay and protected. She's not even going to college herself originally, and so I thought that was interesting that she was just sent there simply to take care of Nessa. But when she shows up and it's revealed that she's there and everyone's looking at her and talking about her and laughing and everything, she goes into this pilot mode where she's like, I'm not seasick, I didn't eat grass growing up, like there's nothing wrong with me, I have green skin, now let's move on kind of thing. I think the character of Elphaba can be related to anyone who is different or isn't popular or standing out to be a significant person, and that doesn't have to be a disability. There's so many ways that people feel othered or different than the people around them, so this is a super relatable character for a lot of people. And in one of the most iconic songs of the movie, Popular, Glenda decides that she's gonna help fix her and make her popular and beautiful so that everyone will love her. Totally dismissing that Elphaba is beautiful and fantastic just the way she is, and that she doesn't need to change who she is for other people. There was one part where the prince is looking at Elphaba from afar with Glenda, and he says something to the effect of, wow, Elphaba really doesn't care what people think about her. And Glenda says, no, I do think she cares, but she just doesn't show it. That was definitely something I could relate to. It can be exhausting to always be looking at yourself as different and responding to people who are treating you different as well. Sometimes you just don't have the energy to always do that. Then we see Glenda really trying to connect and understand Elphaba better, and they become best friends. And they have this scene where they dance together, where Glenda is dancing like Elphaba because people were looking at her weird for the way she was dancing. And so Glenda matched that, and because Glenda was a popular girl, she made it so that people thought it was cool. I did think that was a sweet moment where you could see Glenda looking at Elphaba a little bit different over time and better understanding her as she spent time with her. At one point, Elphaba sings a song called The Wizard and I, where she's singing about how she wants to get to the wizard so badly because she wants to be changed so she doesn't have green skin and they can look at her for just who she is instead of the color of her skin. The end of the film shows Elphaba choosing not to stay with the wizard after she finally got what she wanted. She got to the wizard and it was this whole long journey to get to the wizard, and then she decided that she didn't agree with what the wizard was doing, and so she decided to go her own way away from the wizard, which was a huge deal for her because her whole goal was to be with the wizard. I'm sure so many of you have seen this play and so you know what's going to happen, but as someone who has not seen it, I'm very excited to see the part 2 in a year when it comes out. I'm excited to see how the plot line continues with Nessarose and with Elphaba. Share in the comments below what you think about these characters and how they evolve over time, and how you think it relates to ableism and what you think they could do better in the part 2 movie. I was ecstatic to see that they tried really hard to make sure to take in consideration people with actual disabilities when it came to the filming of this movie versus the play where it's never been played with someone who's disabled. I hope that you all have a fantastic week and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!